Hi everyone, today I wanted to give you a quick pantry tour update, and the reason why I wanted to do it at this time of the year is because we are very soon getting into the new season of preserving the garden, and we have just come out of the season where we have been eating all of the stuff that we have preserved last year. So I kind of want to show you how everything is looking, all the things that we have gone through since last pantry tour, which was back in November of 2021, and to see all the empty spaces, things that we ran out of, things that we still have. And this will just be a good gauge for us going into this year to know what kind of things that I want to can and freeze to get us through the winter this year. So here's a quick pan over everything. We definitely still have some stuff, but a lot of our jars are now empty. And at the end of this video, I'm also going to be going over quickly the types of things that I want to stock up on before we get into preserving season, so that I have everything handy when it comes to canning and all of the recipes that I like to make with our homegrown produce. So you can see here, this little shelving unit on the side is pretty much empty now. We used to have winter melons, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes in here, and now it's pretty much just storage for some pantry things. And I have a big box of our canning rings here. So nothing really in terms of food. We do have just a few straggler sweet potatoes in here, as well as some store-bought sweet potatoes that I keep down here. But really most of our canned goods are on this shelf here, and then I'll also be showing you a little bit in our small chest freezer where we keep a lot of our frozen vegetables and meat. So starting up here, this box here is my box of oldest canned goods that I want to get through fastest, and I really just have a few things left here. I started with maybe 2 trays worth of cans that were a little older. But throughout the winter and throughout the pantry challenge, I've used up a lot of that. So I just have a few leftover things now, and then I just have store-bought pantry goods here. Here you can see I have a whole row of empty jars that we have cleared out, and then I have some homemade lasagna sheets that I dried out that I'm just storing down here. I'm working on drying a lot of pasta so that I can preserve our eggs while our chickens are producing a lot this spring. So this was just the beginning, and today I think I'll be making more pasta to add down here. A few more bulk goods, more store-bought goods. Before I did have a lot of canned goods here, but now we've eaten all of those, so I'm just using it for regular goods. And here in this row you can see almost everything that's left of our canned goods, and it's really not a lot. So we have a few things in here of our habanero pineapple hot sauce, which will probably get us all through the next year, because I mean you only use so much hot sauce, and that'll be great because I'm not growing habaneros this year. I still have my jars of pickled cucamelons that I have not dug into yet. I think maybe this week, I really want to use these up, so I think maybe this week I will make a pasta salad and throw these in here because I'm not really sure what else to do with them. And I just have a few jars of our green tomato relish. This is our tray of jams, and we are almost out. We only have 1 strawberry jam left. We have several peach jams, and then I have a couple of my spiced ground cherry jam. The other day I made thumbprint cookies and I used up a bunch of different jams that way, so I think I'll be doing that again because that's a nice way to use up little odds and ends when I have leftover jars of jam laying around. We really don't go through too much jam throughout the year, but I love to have these half-pint jars of jam because they make really good presents. And right now we're pretty much starting strawberry season, so I will be stocking up on our strawberry jam very soon, so it's great that we only have 1 left right now. Here I had a bunch of applesauce and pickles. We just have 1 jar of bread and butter pickles left and a few jars of applesauce, and apple season will be in the fall, of course, so we're good on those for now. At the bottom here, we are almost out of tomatoes. I just have 4 jars left, and these are just diced tomatoes. That's the main way that I have canned tomatoes up until this point, besides maybe freezing some tomato sauce. But I'm hoping that this year we get enough tomatoes that I have enough to make huge batches of tomato sauce and can those up too. But we're almost in tomato season, so I think this will be fine. And then we have just 1 jar of our regular salsa left. We go through a lot of salsa because we eat a lot of like tacos and enchiladas, that kind of stuff. And then we have 2 jars of our peach salsa, which the other day I added to make some like fruity corn salsa, and that was really good in that. And you can see all of these empty jars from all of the canned goods that we finished up. Now for our chest freezer, I have gone through the other day and completely organized everything because this thing can get messy very quickly. I just like to throw things in there whenever I have extras, and it can get disorganized very easily. I went through and completely emptied out the entire chest freezer and reorganized all of my bags so that when I freeze things here and there, hopefully I can put them in the right places a little easier. I completely redid my inventory sheet as well, and right now the way it is, we just have a few bags of vegetables from last year left and a few bags of fruit. A lot of the freezer right now is actually filled with meat because a month or 2 ago we went to a local farm and picked up like a smallish size order, but we'll probably be barbecuing a lot of that throughout the summer, so that will make space for our new vegetables. So now that I've given you a quick update of what our pantry looks like right now, I kind of just want to go over the things that I like to stock up on this time of year so that I have them on hand for when I need to use them. The first few things are pretty obvious: canning jars and lids. So I think we have plenty of jars to go into this year from all of the jars we've accumulated over the past few years. I do have a couple of cases, especially for those half-pint jars, because we do give a lot of those away as gifts. So over the years, we kind of need to restock on those. So just take a look at what you have, and if you think you're going to be doing more canning, try and get those jars before it is summer and everybody is scrambling over them. Luckily, I was able to stock up on canning lids this past winter. I did it really early on because I didn't want to wait till spring when people were going crazy over them. So I was able to get them back in like I think December or January, and I am all good for the year, and I might even have some extra for the year after, so I feel really good about that. So if you haven't stocked up yet for the year, now's probably the time to go out and look for those, because I know it's been really hard the last couple of years to get those at a good price. I also like to make sure I have enough Ziploc bags and also maybe some like takeout containers or Ziploc containers for freezing, because I do can some of my stuff, but I also like to freeze some things. Things like if I make a batch of tomato sauce during the summer and maybe I just have like one extra and I don't want to can just 1 pint, I'll just stick that into the freezer. Same with things like salsa or diced tomatoes. Or if I have cans that don't seal properly, like with my salsa or diced tomatoes, then I'll just stick those in a little 2-cup container and freeze those. So it's nice to have a bunch of those on hand and ready to use. Then some pantry staples that I also like to get. Sugar is definitely a big one, especially if you like to make jam. You can probably go through like 6 cups of sugar in one batch of jam, which is a lot. So if you make jam, then you definitely want to get lots of sugar. That's one thing we need to go out and grab this weekend. Another thing is salt. You're not using like huge amounts of salt usually in a recipe, but with all of the cooking that I do during preserving season, because I'm basically cooking for the equivalent of like 9 months in a matter of like 3 or 4 months, you do tend to use more salt than you think you do. So that's one thing. I always like to have a few boxes of that on hand. I also like to have different kinds of acids. So this can be white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, or lemon juice. A lot of times when you're canning, you need things to have a certain acidity level, and especially if you're making pickles, you will go through a lot of vinegar. So I like to make sure I have a few jugs of that on hand. For some recipes this year, I think I'm also going to be substituting lemon juice for white vinegar. I think we'll just like the flavor more. So I have some of this like lemon juice in a bottle. I know you can get probably more natural stuff than this green bottle, but this works well for us, and I can get it in bulk at Costco, which is nice. And one last category of goods to look at are your spices and herbs. These are things that you might not use a lot of on a daily basis, but if you're going to be making a big batch of like maybe 12 jars of salsa or 6 quarts of tomato sauce, you'd be surprised how much of these things you would need. So it's nice to just have them up front and make sure you have enough. So that's one thing to go around and take an inventory of and restock if you need to. And a good thing to do before you go out and do your shopping for all of these things is to actually go and look through the recipes for things that you are planning to make for the year. So I like to go through my favorite canning book, which is just a bulk canning book that I know a lot of people use. And I'll go through some of the things that I make every year. So things like diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, salsa. and I'll go and look through what kind of acids they use, or maybe like sugar or salt, and see what kind of things that I'm planning on making so that I can kind of have a rough ballpark of the amount of ingredients that I need, because it would be a real shame if I had a bunch of produce that I was ready to preserve in a day, but I was just missing one ingredient where I couldn't do it. And that would be especially frustrating if I had things that maybe have a shorter shelf life that I really wanted to preserve at the peak of their ripeness. And honestly, just with gas prices the way they are, I kind of want to have everything and get it all in one go so that I don't have to be running out to the store anytime I need something. Besides having all of these things stocked in my pantry, one last thing I like to do is go through my fridge, my pantry, and my deep freezer and start to organize and clear out any old things, maybe use up things that need to be used. So I showed you earlier, I went through my chest freezer and completely organized that, and also brought some of the older stuff that I wanted to get through up to the front where I could reach it more easily and access it. And it's nice to just take a little mental inventory to remind myself of things that I may have forgotten about in there. That way I can use them and clear up space. And same thing goes for the fridge or pantry. I just like to find things that may have been pushed to the back, that have been taking up space, because we're going to need all of that fridge and pantry space very soon. So I think that's pretty much everything on the list for what we're going to be stocking up on, and pretty soon we're going to be in preserving mode, and I'll take you guys along with me, and then we'll do another pantry tour this fall or winter and see how much food we're able to put up from the garden this year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.